Good afternoon to all of you. Today it's indeed a very interesting day for me because what I have seen today at the Singapore International School, where the 69 students who are completing their school days and then stepping into the next level of their education, the kind of impression they have made and what we heard from both the students is extremely gratifying and happy to see the kind of development they have gone through in this school. At the outset, I would like to thank Singapore International School for giving me an opportunity to share with you some of the work what we are doing at ISRO and also say a few things on the education itself. At the outset, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate all the students here for completing their schooling, and congratulations to you for the excellent work you have done and marks you have got, and you are ready to face the world. I also would like to congratulate the entire school staff who have made sure that their wards have learnt tremendous skills, not only just learn various topics, but also ensured that they have learnt skills beyond just education. It is inculcating in them the values of life, which is one of the most important things, and from what I have seen in the limited period, I am quite impressed, and I am sure the students have really had a good opportunity to learn from their teachers and the institution, and it has been able to drill in them a certain core values. This is what is going to carry right through your life. What you have learned in any specific topic, it will be there for some time, but the core values of life is what is going to stand right till the end. And I also would like to congratulate the parents for providing such an opportunity for their wards to study in an institution like this. We at ISRO have been working for bringing in science and technology, new methods of technology for benefiting the society. What is basically being done right from the initial days is looking at how a new technology can be used for mitigating the problems of the society. You are all quite familiar today. If we are able to see in our palms what is happening anywhere in the world, it is because of the science and technology. Today, you will be able to see in your mobile what is happening anywhere in the world at the same instant. Compare this with the earlier decades where one had to, for communicating, one had to write a letter and it travels either by sea mail or air mail, and then you get the response back after a few months. From those days, the science and technology has continuously provided more and more tools and has made the living standards better in the global society. But at the same time, it is still not adequate because we in our own country, if you look at way back in 1957, when the first Sputnik was put into orbit by Russians, Americans and Russians were really competing with each other to demonstrate who is more capable, who is more powerful, and who has got greater military might. At that time, we had Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, a scientist of our country, who was looking at how this new technology of space can be used for improving the living standards of our country, how we can improve the situation and development. You will be happy to know that in 1975, ISRO conducted an experiment which at that point of time was a unique experiment nobody had conducted. It was the largest socio-technological experiment which made use of an advanced technology satellite built by Americans. It was brought over India, and for about a year, in 2,400 villages of our country, equivalent of today's direct-to-home television was demonstrated, making use of indigenous black and white TV sets from ECIL and the front-end hardware realized in the country. Farmers were shown how their farming practices can improve and how health information could be provided to these villagers. Many of you will also be very familiar that at that point of time, in India, we had only in 4 metro cities the privilege of looking at television services. Then, in terms of using the space technology, providing opportunity for the weather forecasting, particularly in the cyclone, today we have about 35 satellites in operation, out of which 13 are for communication, 13 for Earth observation, and 7 for navigation. Using every half an hour images taken from a geostationary platform, today we are able to provide the exact location and time of cyclone hitting a coastal location at least 48 to 96 hours in advance, and thereby enabling the disaster management authorities to prevent loss of life, which used to be in the range of 10 to 15,000 in the earlier decades. Today, we are also able to provide to the fishermen a place to go for fishing since 1999, and this alone saves to the country more than about 15,000 crores per year, because the amount of petrol and diesel that the fishermen save in reaching the right place for fishing, not only it helps in saving the cost, but also ensures them the cost of bigger catches. ISRO has all the time trying to look at how it can make use of this technology, what is available, and it has not just followed what is available, it has actually tweaked and then taken some innovative approaches to solve the problems. Again, to give you an example, in the 1982, when we had the first communication, navigation, communication, broadcasting, and meteorological satellite put into orbit, it was a combination of what we call 3-in-1. You can imagine if we had to launch 3 satellites independently, not only building those satellites, but also launching them would have costed us. So we were the first to come up with what is called a 3-axis stabilized satellite, and putting 3 services in one satellite, and then ensuring that India had the opportunity to provide communication, broadcasting, as well as meteorological services from the mid-80s. Between 95 and 99, ISRO had the privilege of, in the world, the highest spatial resolution imaging in the civilian domain. This was provided for our agricultural monitoring activities, a new concept of 3, again here also 3-tier imaging system was brought in. Today we also have a navigation satellite, a constellation of 7. Compare this with the global positioning system of other countries, which requires between 28 to 32 satellites for providing geographic positioning information. So we were able to come up with only a 7-satellite constellation, a geostationary constellation. Of course, what we are providing information is for India and surrounding India, about 1,500 kilometers. But then that is what is our need. So you can also visualize cost of building and maintaining a 7-satellite constellation will be far less than 28 to 32 satellite constellation. So we have been able to bring in new technology and adopted new approaches, and also, like the student said, if you do not take risks, you do not succeed. So when we did our Chandrayaan mission, though man had landed on moon, a large number of probes had gone to moon, Chandrayaan 1, you will be happy to know, has the real distinction of being recognized as the satellite or the mission which discovered water molecules and OH molecules and the processes which are responsible for formation of such molecules on moon. It was also an example of international cooperation where a large number of countries' payloads were brought together. Similarly, when the Mars mission was done, the Mars mission, which was realized in a record time and also made use of opportunities that we had, and using the resources that we had, we were able to put together a planetary mission, the like of which others had not done up to that point of time. All this has been possible. It is simply because the people who are working in this organization have one single motto, that is how to make use of this space technology to bring the benefits to the country. Some questions were raised, what a mission like Mars, why we should be doing. For example, while we were building our geostationary satellite capabilities, we had gone up to 36,000 kilometers, and when we went to Chandrayaan, it is about 4 lakh kilometers. But when you do a mission like Mars, where a probe which you have built travels to something like 650 million kilometers before it can get captured in the Mars orbit for doing the Mars orbiting activity itself, the tasks that were involved is we were going to go away from the Earth's gravitational field for the first time. We were going to travel, like I said, about 650 million kilometers. And the task that was involved is when we launched this on the 5th of November 2013, the target was on 2014 September 24th morning 7:30 a.m. to the second, this satellite should be at a position around 500 kilometers from Mars within a cube of 50 kilometers. So after traveling such a long distance, you have to make sure that this object is at the right place. Only then you would be in a position to reorient it and reduce its velocity to get captured in the Mars. So these are huge technological challenges. When you challenge a person, when you challenge scientists and engineers, their skills and their capabilities improve. And these skills and capabilities are what are going to be used for addressing the more important problems we need to solve on Earth itself. The satellite itself, even the force of sun's radiation on the satellite surface would have been sufficient to deviate its trajectory from reaching this 50-kilometer cube, what I was talking about. So you have to make sure that you are able to locate it properly, you are able to communicate with it properly, and also you have to build in a large amount of intelligence and autonomy to this satellite, because this satellite was requiring almost 2 months no communication between ground and the satellite. We have gone through this phase, though initially the mission was only for 6 months. Now we have already crossed more than a year and a half, and we expect it to survive for many more years because all the systems are working fine. And this mission also demonstrated to the world that planetary missions can be done at a very significantly lower cost. We have been building not only the satellite systems, but also the indigenous launch vehicle capacity using our Polar satellite launch vehicles, where we have done 34 consecutively successful missions. And today, PSLV is considered as one of the very reliable missions, and we have already launched more than 57 satellites of 21 countries. And we have a contract for another 28 satellites, which will be done in the next couple of years. We are also looking at an opportunity to build higher capacity in the country, wherein we are trying to make use of the Indian industry. Even today, PSLV, 80% of the work happens in an Indian industry. Even here in Bombay itself, there are many companies which are providing some of the subsystems and units. But the capacity is not sufficient. We need to build lot more. So we are trying to work on mechanisms where we build higher capacity in the country. Globally also, what is happening is not only the space agencies of countries, but private companies are getting into this process of building launch vehicles and launching them. See, many of you are quite familiar that as the technology starts developing, initially the man conquered the land, then on the ocean, Once the ship was built, he's conquered the ocean, then similarly air. Today, we have a new frontier. New frontier is space. Now space, you are talking about space tourism, space adventure, space exploration, space exploitation. And also man looks at, in case at a future point in time, if Earth becomes uninhabitable, what is the alternative? So towards all this, he is looking at opportunities and looking at, probably you also would have heard of one-way ticket to Mars being purchased and one of the companies selling those tickets. People are buying that. So what this shows is human being has a tremendous adventure spirit, and then he is prepared to look at all odds and then go ahead and conquer the new world. Today, you are just completing your school education and you are moving over to the global arena for the next level of your education. What you also need to appreciate is, today on Earth, we are having many problems. One, because of population. As a result of that population, the use of resources, whether it is energy or water, and then the pollution levels that are happening, many solutions have to be found. Space does provide one of the opportunities to look at Earth, and space is the only one of the important ways by which we can gather information about what happens on Earth. Because space sees no boundaries, while on land you have got borders of states, countries, etc. From space you don't have those boundaries. So you can look at what is happening over the entire globe. But the challenge is finding new resources which are renewable, finding them, making them available, and also ensuring that the pollution levels go down, and also ensuring that sufficient water available for the entire humanity. You have many challenges to face. I am sure your stint at this institute, at this school, will give you a tremendous strength to look at what is happening. And also, you have one responsibility, in my opinion, because in our country, not many people have the privilege of going through education at this standards, at this level. So all of you had that privilege of learning. Does it, while it has given you capability, does it put any responsibility on you? I believe yes. I believe each one of you should, in your own way, look at future. While you improve your skills, you improve your own capabilities, you achieve greater heights, you also need to see how what you have acquired, what you are doing can help the society around you, how you can address the problems of the society and contribute to their betterment. I wish each one of you a great success in your life, and thank you very much for the patient hearing.